Welcome. This is For Better and Worth,
the podcast where we don't believe you have to sacrifice your relationship while you build your net worth.
We are your hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ericka Young. And we're so glad you joined us today.
All right, y'all, come on. Let's get into it. Hello, people.
We are back again.
We are back on the airways, putting down a little something for you all to hear.
Yes, and we're excited about our next topic on the heels of having spoken with our children. And you really came up with a pretty good idea, honey. I love how when we're behind the scenes, we kind of talk about what we're going to talk about. And I like that you had a way to piggyback off of our kids being a part of the podcast for a hot second.
Well, everybody out there they've been able to meet our kids and hear from them. So I thought it was important that we stay in that vein and we talk about your children. And, love them or hate them, we all have them. And, we all love them, of course, but, they get on our nerves sometimes.
Yes, there are times when I love my children, but I really don't like them. And that's real.
Yeah. Hey, look, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like sometimes you like your friends and, your spouses and
not our spouses.
Sometimes, they get on your nerves. But
do I get on your nerves, honey?
Well, we're going to talk about kids today.
But, deflection here. That is what you call deflection. Let's move on to a new topic.
Look, I wouldn't say you get on my nerves. Sometimes you have challenging ways. But
ooh.
It's okay.
I don't know which is worse, babe. Honestly, I have challenging ways. Or I get on, I don't know, maybe I want to prefer to get on your nerves than to have a challenging way, okay?
Look, I told you, I said Beyonce get on Jay-Z's nerves too sometimes. So, and I'm sure he gets on hers, but look, they're still billionaires and they're still loving life and living it up on the high side. So
that's right.
Look, 25 years, I know we have figured out how to make things work. I know when you need a moment and you know when I need a moment.
Yep.
We're going to deal with these children today, though.
These children.
So, just like we talk about, couples and money, I think that you have to start talking about money with kids at an early age just so they understand the general concepts of money, how money works, where money comes from. Because kids, when they're little, all they know is, give me. Can I have? And they don't get the concept that, work equals reward or, that give me that thing you want has dollars or prices associated with it. And so as people are listening out there, I think it's important that they understand that they have to begin to set a good financial foundation with their children. And I am just very, very thankful. And I just, bless God that he gave us kids that, have turned out extremely well. And, they're on opposite ends of the spectrum to some degree because, one of them can squirrel it away and save and the other one spend it as soon as they get
it. Yeah, we got a spender and a saver in our house. So, I think that a lot of the times we think our kids can't digest or understand or comprehend certain concepts. And so I think what you said is really good in that you were saying that a lot of times, kids are about me, give me, it's mine. And because they understand that something can be theirs or they want something to be theirs, they can also understand what it looks like to share. And you can talk about money in those respects as well as literally giving things away. I remember when Olivia decided one day she wanted to give, one of our friends had a newborn baby. She wanted to give that baby a blanket, one of her favorite blankets that she really liked, but she was really too big for it, too tall to sleep with it and that kind of thing. And she was, excited about sharing this with her. And So we did, along with another, baby gift when she was born, and she regretted it for so long. Like she was beyond like the terrible twos and all of that. She was old enough to understand what she was doing, and by that I mean she was like a early elementary age, and she regretted it. And to this day, she says, "Mom, why did you let me give it to her?" And I'm like, if we don't teach our kids how to give, oh my gosh, like who are we becoming? And that I think about that kind of stuff, but we have to teach them how to give dollars too, and how, literally seeing money exchange hands is a really important principle.
Look, you've heard you particularly have heard me say this before. And I remember when I was first in college and I was studying education and the plan was to become a teacher. And I remember I had a professor, and that professor said that kids aren't stupid, they're just short.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed my whole view because a lot of times if you look at children and you look at the way they act, you're like, wait a minute, these are little people. Like this is a little man or a little woman because they're not stupid. They know how to manipulate situations. They know
Yes.
how to take advantage of things, and they know how to have good hearts and be good-willed and all of those things. And ever since I heard that statement, it just changed the way I thought about kids, because kids really are just short people,
Mm-hmm.
and they have all the capability and faculties to employ to do some of these things. Now, let's be honest, they can't do it at the same level as an adult, and they may not understand conceptually, why they're doing what they're doing or how to do some things, but they have the capability and capacity at their level to do some things. And so I think it's not just about giving money, it's about, creating habits around earning. The Bible says if a man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat.
Oh my gosh. Are you saying that little kids out here can't get some food because they don't
Look,
have a job? Get it. Come on
look,
now.
nothing wrong with a little child labor.
Uh, okay. You know what?
I retract that statement.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. But I think that, you know, kids can learn more than we give them credit for. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And and I think that it's really just keeping those little educational moments very short and in alignment with their attention span at whatever age they're at. They don't want, just like adults don't want a day long money summit, neither do your children want a day long, you know, instruction on how to handle money. It's the day in and day out that matters most.
Yeah, well, I think when it came to our kids, they were okay to do some small chores, and we had to help them when they were young clean their rooms and help build these little habits, create these little muscles that we were developing and growing around just helping out around the house.
Yeah.
And early on, well, actually when they got a little bit older and old enough to understand, there was some responsibility that each of them could have and share. And there's reward that comes at the end of work. I came up with a little system at the house. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to talk about a lot of other things. But I came up with something called the Pop Shop.
Yes, I love it. And I feel like it's so catchy. But what made you come up with the pop shop? Because I knew we wanted to teach the kids to give, save, and spend, but I definitely didn't come up with anything as creative as what the pop shop became. So how
Well,
did you come
that's
up with
why
that?
that's why we're a duo. That's why we're a team. We work together.
That's right.
But it's one of those things where do you want to just give kids money or an allowance, or do you want to show them that there's reward associated with putting in your work and being diligent and saving? And I think there were a lot of different principles and concepts that I put into that to help them begin to understand what it was. And so it was one of those things where I went and I bought a Rubbermaid tub, and I put all these little things in there that I thought they could want. little knickknacks and notebooks and little toys. And I think I got these things from all over the place, the dollar store. And, you're at Target and they have the whole little, under $5 section.
Mm-hmm.
I got some gift cards. I just got a bunch of different things that, two little girls would be intrigued by and that they would want.
And the girls were, I'm going to say maybe 4 and 8 or 5 and 9, that type of age
Yeah,
where,
somewhere around that.
yeah, where Olivia was old enough to try and make her bed and pick up her toys and be a little bit more helpful.
They were old enough where they could actually do some of the
Mm-hmm.
things. And, there was some candy and just all kinds of things.
And
It's like,
cash, for that matter,
yeah,
having some money around,
yeah, I did put like, some
couple
dollar
dollars.
bills in there.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got me like an apron and, a little visor. And it was like, all right, Pop Shop is open. The Pop Shop is almost like the ice cream truck.
Yes.
And when the ice cream truck came, you were like, oh man, I remember as a kid, I would go run in the house, Mom, can I get ice cream? And if I had money, she'd be like, yep. I'd go chase the ice cream truck down. And it was almost that same concept. They knew what day the Pop Shop would open. And I had all the items that were priced, accordingly. But in order to buy at the Pop Shop, there was a chore chart.
It was a whole deal. We had created this whole just chart of chores that you could possibly do and the points associated with it. So we made it more of a game. So that part was a game, and that was pretty cool, I thought, because it wasn't just the chore, it was like that extra being able to see your progress.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not gonna tell you all the details, people, because somebody go out there and try and create my idea. You're gonna hear from my lawyers. But anyway, it was just something that worked in our household. And so they would, really do their chores and they would earn, tokens and they learned how to save them because everything wasn't a value that they could immediately get. So I taught them, one, that you had to work and earn. And two, sometimes you had to save if you wanted something that was a little bit more expensive, or, you had to make good decisions about, well, if I get this and I spend it all, then I won't be able to get this, or it'll take longer.
Right.
And so they had this whole they were making these little decision matrices in their
Yeah.
own head, these little 4 and 8-year-olds. But it was fun for us because they knew Pop Shop opened once a week and all the prizes was there, and I just kept replenishing it. And I
Yeah.
always tried to up the ante and have something like, yeah, we got some new products to the Pop Shop. So it was fun for me, it was fun for them, and it taught them fundamental principles that they had no idea
Yeah.
they were learning.
One of the biggest things that it taught them and me to watch is delayed gratification. It is, one, the Pop Shop wasn't open every day. You determined when it was going to be open, and sure, it was weekly, but it wasn't every day. So you had to wait for that. You had to see your, tokens build up. And then when you got to the shop, you had to decide whether or not it was something that you wanted in that moment, or if you wanted to wait, like you said, to save those tokens for a time where you had more. And so it was interesting because I don't know that we intentionally saw that coming, right? Like we were just like, okay, how do we get them to do some chores? Like it started off as simple as that. And of course, you made it super creative and had the apron and made it more of a hoopla and an event. But it was super cool, and it lasted for like a couple of years. And it was just neat to see their eyes light up and get excited about the result. Just that reward from their work. And they were small chores, but to see them actually get interested in doing that was just a really neat thing to see in our kids, like blossom, like that part blossom. And I honestly do wish that we had done it longer. I wish that we had tried to make it evolve a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, we might have to reinvigorate the pop shop, and actually bring this to production.
Okay, yes, ooh, production. Okay, because I'm thinking, what we gonna do with a 19 and 23-year-old?
Well, look, there's those other generations that we can still impact out there. But I think as parents, you have to be intentional. And that's the thing that I would really try and reiterate here was the intentionality that we had around trying to do something that was at that level for the kids to comprehend, that was building fundamental foundations. And you hear me talk about foundation. And I just think it's so important because when you set the right foundation, you can build upon that. And so that's why, for me, it was just being intentional and doing something that they could comprehend at their level. It could be fun, but the lessons could be lessons that they would not lose and they would continue to live by. Because now, being the ages that they are, I see them still going through that decision matrix in their head, trying to figure out, well, can I do this or can I do that? We've got one who's out on their own and trying to figure out, well, man, can I buy a couch? And, how much do I spend? And like really shopping and, trying to be really diligent. And the other one is like, well, you know what? I don't need anything. I'm just sitting on my money. And, nope, don't need to do that. Nope, don't need to go there. And just, I see this and I can trace it back to how they got some of these things as a child. And to parents that are out there listening, you don't have to do the same thing, but you have to do something.
Yeah.
And you have to be intentional about how you're going to relay it to your children to create that understanding that really will become foundational experience that will set them on the course and the path that they will be on as they enter, preteen, teenhood, young adult, and something that they will be able to translate and transfer onto their children.
Yeah. I think it's important that we start younger than you think you need to. That's about any super important conversation. I have heard it said that we need to, I'm going here. I don't know why this is in my head, but we need to talk about sex with our kids earlier than we think we need to. We need to talk about relationships. We need to talk about friendships. We need to talk about a lot of things with our kids sooner than we think we need to, and probably sooner than we're as parents ready to have those conversations. And I think if we just make it a natural part of life, that just makes it so much easier to do. Of course, again, age appropriate and all of that good stuff. I feel like I remember when Faith in particular wanted a Barbie and she saved. She waited for that so that she could have enough money. Like it took her a couple months actually, and she still wanted it. But the point was she waited. She had that delayed gratification for a decently long. I mean, wasn't like we couldn't buy it for her, but she had her heart set on something, right? And it's stuff like that that helps them to just understand that everything doesn't come overnight, right? And if we hadn't taught her that at that age, I just imagine these young people who are like, everything, I just want it right now, because they've never had a moment where they had to wait for all of the dollars to be there. That is so vitally important, especially now that, credit card usage and access is so prevalent. You can pretty much have what you want if you have the credit available. And it can be very detrimental when you don't really know when you're going to pay it back. So to have it in cash, like immediately beforehand, is just so powerful because it puts you in the position of knowing exactly what it is that you want.
I'm sitting here, I'm listening, and I'm trying to be on the other side. Like I'm listening to this conversation. People are like, man, it was probably tough growing up in their household.
Oh, was it hard?
But, not everything is a lesson. We didn't make them work for everything.
Although I would say After
Everything
movies,
everything is an opportunity.
it is. After movies, my kids got so tired of me saying, "So what did you learn?" And they're like, "Ma, this was a Barbie movie. Like, why is there a lesson?" There is always a lesson.
Right.
There is a
The
plot.
kids were like, "This is just entertainment."
Yes. And I'm like, no, 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 no. There is a lesson. What did you learn? I literally did that nearly every time we went to the movies, but I diverged.
Yeah, yeah. But there's
Digress.
always opportunities within, moments, and you just have to take advantage of them. But I think you made a good point, while we were planning for this. And I want you to talk a little bit about how, we're talking about putting the good lessons and, as parents, I think we have to show kids the good, the bad, the indifferent. And I know when I was growing up, my mom didn't always show me the bad side of things. I saw it just kind of, you know, by consequence, but it wasn't her being intentional about sharing it with me. And we were talking about how you can't hide the bad stuff or the stuff that's a challenge because there's lessons and there's learnings in that as well. And we as parents, I think we probably are the ones that struggle more with approaching topics and talking about things with our kids. But these kids nowadays, man, they are this generation, these Gen Z and millennials, they have endured some very trying times. And, we joke about, us 70s babies, how, these kids are built different than we were. But they're built different in a very different way because they've had to endure some things that we would have never had to endure. So I think we got to, bring them along and talk about some of those things. But what do you think about that? Talking about the good, the bad, and the indifferent.
I think that parents need to be, you know, more open. I think that parents need to not open the door wide, but I think parents need to just say, okay, you know what? Now isn't a great time. For instance, dad lost his job. We're going to not be dining out, for a while because it's just a responsible thing to do. We can eat at home. Or we need to be able to say, we're getting out of debt. So we can only do this right now until we reach this milestone, for instance, and help the kids to understand the impact of what it looks like to get out of debt. You know what I mean? Like the freedom that is possible. I think
Yeah,
that
they play a part in that
mhm.
and they have a role in it. And I think when we involve and engage kids as part of the solution or part of what's going on, they feel invested as well.
And I think parents can talk about the electric bill. I think that's super easy to talk about the electric bill, the light bill. You know what I mean? Like, so why we
you
keep the
you
refrigerator closed
you
and
gonna
not
you gonna be
open?
like your granddaddy, boy. Why you leaving those lights on in
Yes.
that room? Ain't nobody in that room.
Right. That part, because it does matter. You know what I mean? And I know our kids in particular are a little bit more conscious of the environment and not wasting and things like that.
Well,
But
I have gone in rooms and fans are on. Like,
yes.
there's nobody in this room. What? Why is this?
Yeah.
Why is this fan on? Or
Yeah.
because our house is relatively quiet. It's like there's nobody in this room. Why is the TV on?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
Yeah. And I think I remember the time that I shared with Faith how much our electric bill was. And she was, an early teen. And I shared that, this was the electric bill. And I'm pretty certain it was in the summertime because it was a higher number. And she was flabbergasted. When I've asked the kids, have you thought about how much it actually costs to feed all of us? And they guess, and it's like half the number that it really is every single month. Or when I remember this one time when I had them divvy out, like, where would we go if we only had $200 in dining out money for the month for all four of us, which is like kind of hard to do, honestly. Um, and I remember Olivia in particular saying, you know, I want to go to this place, but I really only want a milkshake. So we're just going to get milkshakes and not a whole meal because the milkshakes are the best thing on the menu.
Right. She was like, we don't need food.
We don't need food, right? We
But now
just
these shakes, we can get these.
and she is still that way to this day. That girl loves her a good old milkshake or a smoothie. And so it was interesting how like that was a lesson that they had to work together to kind of figure out where we would go, what their favorite places were, and how everybody could eat or have a treat on $200 for 30 days. And so they made their choices. And I just thought that was a neat little exercise. It wasn't, I didn't even have to supervise. This was not like a super big deal, but I was curious because they kept wanting to go out to eat at that season in life. And I was like, you need to understand what this looks like. And that made a huge difference in their ability to understand how to, you know, when to say yes and when to say not now on a big piece of the budget, which is food, dining, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
And just so people who are listening out there, we're talking about what, by all accounts, sounds like, you know, things you're teaching your kids when they're little, you know, but we continue to evolve with this. And as our kids got older and they started to get cell phones and had friends and started to want to go places, we just shifted. We started to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you X number of dollars every month. Now it's up to you to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you spend all your money and there's still time left in the month, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Don't come back. And so as they got into junior high and high school, we just started to say, okay, we're going to give you every 2 weeks, you get this amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what you go to the movies with, you go hang out with your friends, whatever it is you're trying to do, aside from food, clothing, shelter, transportation, it's on you.
Yeah. I think when a person who drives, you know, enters into that season, I think that they need to have autonomy over being able to get gas and when they're going places to be able to spend their money and enjoy. And I think the biggest thing is it forces them to budget. And it makes it easier on our budget. For years we've done this now, even with our college age kids. And it makes it so much easier for us. We don't necessarily have to worry about does she have enough money to do A, B, and C because she's figured it out. And so it I think it's helpful on both ends. I think the question mark is how much do you give them at whichever stage they're in?
Right.
And then teaching them one that it needs to last 30 days or for however long it is. But I think it's helpful on both ends and it just makes things easier because in life you will get a paycheck. You will get it on a specific
right.
day or a different time every single month.
That's right. And I think that's where people have to understand that we did things at different levels and different phases in their lives to continue the lessons going. Because all of this is training. And training requires repetition. And you got to do things over and over and over. And you have to sometimes adjust what you're doing to get slightly different results. And that's what we were doing. We trained them at a level for elementary school, and then we trained them at a different level for middle school, and then we adjusted for junior high and then high school. And now, like you said, even in college now, we still do similar things. We say, hey, this is what you get every 2 weeks. Boom, this is the amount. And when they're in college, this is what they're using to take care of themselves because, you know, bless God, they were smart girls and got scholarships and things like that. But we still wanted to make sure that we provided and took care of them while they were in college. And so, parents, that's what I say to you. It involves training. And training is repetition. And you got to show them how to do it and what to do it. But it takes time. And you do that over the course of time. And then kids will ultimately get it and begin to understand and they employ it. Then when they get out in the real world, they have built skills and they've practiced over the course of years. And so when they do enter into the work world and the workforce, be it as an employee or a self-employed or whatever they're doing, they have built skills that help them navigate the waters that can be tough when they get out there and hit reality.
Yeah. I think it's important that we try and help our kids be set up for success. I think it's important that we don't act like these things should only be taught to a person who has graduated and made money. The interesting thing that I'm finding in the work that I do is that these young people don't know a lot of the things that they need to know when they enter into the workforce. And if you don't practice the saving muscle and flex it and utilize it when you're 22, 25, 30, 40, if you never have practiced it, it's not going to come natural. It's not something you're thinking about. If you haven't practiced a giving muscle, then you won't see, that all of the benefits of, being someone who shares, who gives, who expands what it is that they have and does good with it. And obviously, if you don't if you don't learn the importance and the fun that there can be had in spending, then, that person may not have as much enjoyment. There's no sense in going to work and enjoying and enjoying the work that you do and not actually enjoying what you earn at the end of that work day. And so I think it is so vitally important that we teach all of these lessons at the various ages where it's appropriate, because in the end, it's all going to matter. It's all going to be, impactful. And the other thing that I'll say I think is really interesting too is know your kid. Like, know what lessons they need, because if you know that one is more of a spender and was more of a saver, or one, has some challenges with things, these are things you can work on and find creative, fun ways to engage them when they're younger, so that when they're older and it truly matters, you'll see that, the lessons that you did earlier made a difference.
So let's talk about make it worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, we're operating on the same brain. You were trying to steal my make it worth it.
Hey, I didn't even know. Listen, I'm not, you know what? Maybe it was written on your forehead.
Right.
I don't know. But I didn't know.
As you were talking, I was like, same brain. But make it worth it. You have to do what works for your kids. But you have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
You can't think it's going to just happen magically or by osmosis. You have to do something and be practical. And I say, make it worth it. Figure out what works for your kids and do something. And in doing something, be practical about what you can employ, because you need to be consistent with what you do so that they can get the learnings from it and adjust it, at each age, at each phase of life, so that they can continue to get those lessons. So what would you say to make it worth it?
I would say make it fun and make it happen often, because there's no sense in having one money lesson in 1 year and then letting a year go by and nothing happens. So be consistent with it. Make it happen, make it fun. And the kids will begin to enjoy the different things that come from having learned these money lessons. You'll see the fruit later, but hopefully these internalized lessons will be something that they'll carry on for long term.
You guys heard from our kids, and we believe that you can get the same thing, because if he did it for us, he can do it for you.
Again, Mr. Preacher Man.
Won't he do it? Won't he do it?
Yes, he will.
All right, guys, until next time.
We're out.
Thank you for spending some of your time with us today.
We appreciate all your support. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to this podcast.
You can find us on Instagram at For Better and Worth.
And sign up for our email on forbetterandworth.com.
Till next time, we're out of here.